Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to our blessed full moon in Sagittarius readings. I'm the magical medium, and I would say that I'm sad to report, but I'm excited to report that this will be my last pick-a reading. I don't know for how long. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can tell you that this is the last reading I will be doing in Big Camper, because tomorrow I'll be packing up and shortly we will be on our way. There's a lot going on. It's very exciting. If you guys want to stick around and hear more about it, please do. If you don't, go to the description box and your reading links will be below. Before you, we have reading 1, Apopholite, reading 2, clear quartz crystal, reading 3, violet amethyst, and reading 4, dark purple amethyst. And maybe you're drawn to more than one. These are messages from our spirit guides. So I have no idea what's going to come through. I haven't pulled the cards yet. I will tell you this though, we are going to be using the Archetypes guidebook. Okay? And I'll actually put that there for a minute so you guys can check it out. And see your clear quartz crystal too. Okay. So we're going to be reading from this book today. I'm going to be doing 4 separate readings from that, from the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck by Kim Kranz. And, funny little story. It actually makes so much sense why I'm using this deck. And I'm actually going to turn this away because it was like in my face and I really can't handle that. So there we go. Oh, look at that. The first time I saw this deck, it was in one of the very first times I ever saw a pick a card reading. And I think the deck had just come out. And long story short, I got the deck and I worked with the deck and I played with the deck. I'd seen many readings from the deck, but it wasn't until I really went through the book and realized that Kim Kranz, who wrote this book, actually wrote it in one of my very favorite places on the entire western seaboard of the United States. Now, there is a stretch from San Francisco to about, I think, Yachats, or maybe Florence, that I have not been to yet. However, I have been from the bottom of the Baja Peninsula all the way up to the top of Cape Flattery, and only in that little nook have I not been yet. I have a feeling that I'm going there this year. I'm excited. I don't know for sure, but I can tell you that's a lot of territory. But in that territory, one of my favorite beaches of all time is there. And that's where Kim wrote the book and wrote this deck. Can you believe that? I mean, blew my mind. When I told my husband, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, dude, it's like one of our favorite places on the western seaboard. I'm like, can you believe that? I feel like this wants to be turned around. Maybe you were looking at it. I feel like you guys wanted to see it from a different angle. So there you go. Oh, look at that. Look at the sparkle in there. Oh, Spirit, you're so good. So if you want to go to your reading, go to your reading. But for those of you who've been with me for a long time, 414 is our angel number. For those of you who have been with me a long time, or even for those of you who've just joined, I want to tell you a little bit about my exit journey that's happening right now. So, as most of you know, we have been looking for a really, really long time, and we've traveled. My husband and I, we've traveled quite extensively all over the Pacific Northwest, looking, for our place, like where we're meant to be, where we're meant to go, like what's meant to happen, kind of thing. And in the meantime, we've been living in our 26 by 10 foot 1978 roll along vintage camper. And we've always said that if worse came to worse, at least we would always have a house because we had this. It has a great engine. It's actually she's a beast, man. Big camper. She's a fucking beast in every way good. Amazing engine. Only has 70,000 original miles on her, which is kind of crazy when you consider that she's 50, almost 50 years old, 40 something years old. And the interesting thing is, a lot of those miles were put on towards the end, right before we got her, from these 3 young men who it belonged to one of their grandmothers and had been sitting, like, I guess, under a tarp for years. And then her son moved in there for a while and moved in here for a while. And then it was just sat again for a long time. And then he said, Grandma, I want to buy that. I want to, that's when people were really starting to do the tiny home thing, which was almost like 10 years ago. And long story short, they traveled, he and his buddies traveled extensively, smoking weed in their 20s, having a good old time, taking big camper here, there, and everywhere. So she's had her run. She's had a good time, but she still has some years left in her in terms of living for sure. And you could absolutely drive her around. But what happened was, as it started to get, we had an exit date with our landlord, and as it started to get closer, we were noticing that the gas prices were starting to go up. And he's like, this gets like 5 miles to the gallon. He's like, there's no way. I'm like, no. I'm like, we couldn't even drive. It would probably take us like $500 to drive 2 hours. I'm like, that's crazy. I'm like, no. I'm like, so then he looked into, changing her over to propane gas, which is only, like half that right now, or less than half than that. I think it's like $238 we saw recently. And who knows when they'll start hiking that up. But anyway, but it was really expensive. It was more expensive than he thought it was going to be. So he was like, well, I don't know. And I said, you know what? The truth is, I'm like, I feel like she's begging to be a really cool tiny home. I mean, everything still works on it, which is kind of crazy. Even the original air conditioner, and it works really good. And during the last few summers, the heat waves, boy, was it a blessing for us. So anyway, the last few weeks, we've been, still looking to maybe like move her to a property, because our goal was to have a property, a healing place for ourselves and other people where they can come and visit and get healing done, whatever. Work with him with psychedelics, work with me with spirit and, Reiki, shamanic healing. And last week, it's just nothing was really coming up. And so we put in ads. Actually, I think it was more than a week ago now. We put in ads, and all these people were responding to us from all different places, and from north of Seattle, Camino Island, to Tahuya, I think it's called, in the Puget Sound, to Sequim, to Dungeness, So long story short, we went through all of them, and we found the two that we were most intrigued with were actually in Sequim and Dungeness, which are right next to each other, which is, funnily enough, where Alder's family is from. Like literally, like one side of his family is from the Native American Sklallam, the Jamestown Sklallam tribe, and the other side of his family were the Fitzgeralds. That was his mom. But then on his dad's side, they were like Vikings, Gustal. So he had this really cool history up there of his family. So I've always wanted to live up there. It's really beautiful. And the last time I saw my mom and she came to visit, we brought her up there. And she's like, wow, this place is really magical. I'm like, yeah, we love it. 7 years ago, when Alder and we met in May, but around this time, we were like falling crazy in love with each other. And we just knew that we wanted to be together. And so he took me up there with his family, and we spent time, and basically I've been in love with the Olympic Peninsula ever since. And those of you who know me know I've just have a pull there. Come to find out that the Olympic Peninsula actually has a very powerful vortex there. And some believe that there's a really powerful, under the Olympic Mountains, that there's like a portal there. So I definitely believe that that is true. Every time we go there, I just don't want to leave. Like I start to cry, I get emotional. I'm like, I don't want to go home, like to hear where we've been living in the Olympia area. So long story short, we went up there yesterday and neither place worked out. However, it was going up there that I really realized who I was. It was actually, I may get emotional. I'm trying to keep my tears back on my throat chakra. It's like, just speak your truth, because I'm always telling you guys to be yourself. But, I just want you to enjoy these, I don't want you to be like, look, hear me cry. But I know you love me, and I love you guys too. 1044, which is also number 9. It's almost there. We're almost there. We're almost there, right? Like, we're so close. We're so close. And it's just so many magical things happened on that journey, and it took me until that journey to realize that, like, we have to let Big Camper go. Like, it's time for her next voyage, one way or the other. And we've been wanting to fully gut her and remodel her and make her into this like dreamy, cool little tiny home, but because she's got this like cool like little hobbit hole kind of entrance from where the van like comes on to like the, look it up, it's an old camper van. She's so cute and she's so charming, she has such good bones, and we're like, she deserves to go to somebody who's going to love her as much as us. But it was also about, it's the first home, either both of us, Alder and I, like, it's the first home each of us have ever owned. And she may not be much, but she was ours. She still is ours as of this moment. We haven't sold her yet. I'm going to list her soon. But, you know, I, 1157, I just realized that the only thing that's really been holding me back is me. And and same with Alder. I feel like we both like have been kind of holding ourselves back, but it was all meant to be. You know what I mean? Like, I don't second guess the process or how it happens or what happens. Like, I genuinely feel with every fiber of my being that we are exactly where we're supposed to be. But at the same time, there's this part of me that's like, holy crap, like, we're going to be living out of our car. I'm like, unless something comes up, before then. But at the same time, I was like, but that's kind of cool. And we've been talking to Bubba, and those of you who know Bubba are familiar. We've been talking to her for a few days, just like, saying, hey, how would you feel? Like, do you think you can handle it? Like, we've been trying to figure out, like, how would we do a litter box? Like, what would we do? Like, we have a minivan, but it's not that big. It's more like, it's like a minivan meets like a station wagon, but definitely enough that we can sleep in there and be cozy. But like, we're like, where do we put a litter box? Like, where would we, like, Bubba will never go on a leash. But I'm like, I can't think about that right now. Like, right now we need to just be 1321. Whenever I call numbers out, it's for you to research on your own. But I know that it's time for, like, it really is. Like, I've been hearing like Frank Sinatra, like, and now the time is near. And I just shot a video of the moonrise today. And I was like, just the way everything is coming together is so beautiful and so magical for Alder and I. I mean, the fact that I'm a triple Sag with my moon in Scorpio, and he is a triple Gemini with his moon in Sagittarius, is like so unbelievable. Like, we're in Gemini season. It's his moon, but I'm a Sag, you know what I mean? Like, all that Jupiter energy too, and just Jupiter is in Aries, and I'm all of a sudden I feel free. I felt afraid before, and I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't know why. And one of the properties that we went and looked at, in one way, it was super dreamy because it was so big, and we could do a lot with it. And it was this woman who bought this property for retirement, and it had like these old trailers on it they were like from the 50s through the 70s, and this cool old pump house. It was very witchy and kind of magical and whimsical. Like, the trees on there were really neat and stuff. But all around it was like, it just looked like people sold off their land and this is up in Squim. So if you've ever been up there, it's really magical up there. But it's like in this area that's between downtown Squim and Dungeness, and there's sprawling like lavender farms, and you know what I mean? It's really beautiful. But then there's like these pockets. And when we were looking at it with Google Maps, like we were looking at the aerial view of it and everything, and I'm like, dude, I feel like this is like the ghetto of Squim, which, hey man, nothing against it, have lived in them, lived in the quote unquote projects when I was a kid with my mom. And it was, I know how that can be. But at the same time, you know, we lived in really, they were government subsidized housing, but originally they were built to be condos, and the builder ran out of money or whatever, and the state got it really really cheap, and so they turned them into government subsidized housing. So they were beautiful, but it was still like where I lived. It kids were outside playing, and people playing with their music, and it wasn't the way I was raised, so it was really hard for me. And so when we were standing on the property, I was like, I can get past like that there's like a bike like halfway in the ground. You know what I mean? Like I was like, we could till this soil, like we could turn this around for her. It was gonna be a work trade. Like we can live there for free as long as we just like put in so many hours to like help her get it up to par that either she can sell it or she's gonna retire, bulldoze those old buildings and build a home there. So long story short, like all around there, it was just like so ghetto. And like dogs were barking, these guys were like fucking around like on their bikes, and these other guys were like listening to music and working on cars. And it was just like a Monday afternoon. It wasn't a holiday, it was yesterday. I'm like, nah. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm like, no. I'm like, look where we are now. I'm like, I can't do that. I'm like, no. He's like, yeah, we can't do it. So we're like, that's fine. So we went and looked at the next one, and the next one was like one of the most beautiful properties both of us, 1706, have ever seen in our lives. Like honestly, it was so beautiful. It was so well done. It literally had a little like, it was bigger than a pond. It was, well, I guess it was about a pond. It almost looked like a lake, but really beautiful. And just the grounds and the house was gorgeous, amazing. Like the land was beautiful. We loved them. They were this really nice couple in their 80s. We just got along with them. They were super funny and interesting. And but then, she's like, "Hey, you guys want a drink?" And I'm like, "Oh no, we don't drink alcohol." And she's like, "Oh," and she's, on oxygen. She's drinking vodka. And then like the husband was really sweet. He's like, "I don't drink," and he was drinking a Pepsi, and I'm just like, and I was having these moments where I was like, she looked like my dad's side of the family. And like he looked like my mom's side of the family. And I go, wow, this is really weird. And they're like, why? And I go, well, my dad used to drink vodka and orange juice and he was on oxygen. And I said, and I looked at her husband and I go, my mom didn't drink, but she drank Pepsi. I'm like, this is kind of tripping me out right now. It's just like kind of freaky. And Alder didn't say much, and then later on, like he said he was communicating with their higher selves while I was talking to them. And it was just like this really cool conversation. And they actually weren't from there. They were from Northern California. They were from the one area I've never been. And so we were just having these great conversations. And I was like, oh yeah, I lived in LA and I worked in politics. And it was really awesome. We were there for a long time actually, talking to them, and they invited us to live there. They loved us and they were like, get here as soon as you can. Let's try it for a month and see if it works, kind of thing. But we just realized like it would cost us $500 just to get Big Camper up there. And I was just like, I don't know. I'm like, and it's interesting because in 7 years that we initially wanted to live there, it has changed so much. And never in my life, in the Squim that I thought it was, in that area, Dungeness, like I never ever thought I would see Trump flags everywhere. And the mayor was, a huge Trump fan. And I don't know why, but that kind of bugged me, especially because the first property, we literally like, it was like on a dead end road, and we had to go like past this house that had a big flagpole with an American flag and a huge Trump flag. And I was just like, I'm like, I can't look at that fucking flag every day coming around the corner. I'm like, I just can't do it. 1939. But then with the couple, it was awesome until they started telling us about their tenants. Because when we first drove through, there was this house on the property. It was a smaller house, And then they built this massive, like beautiful, like kind of country style mansion in the back. I mean, everything, seriously, the inside of it, like there were so many, they had an organ, like we would have had fun with them. Like it was really awesome. However, they started telling us about their tenants, and I just was like, no. She's like, they have 3 big dogs, and I was just like picturing Bubba, like trying to, because before they told me that, they love cats, and so they were really excited about Bubba coming to stay there. Her husband was more excited than her. He's like, oh, I love cats, and we were like telling him about Bubba, and they were excited to meet her, and I'm looking at the pond, and there's ducks, and like there's like a boat, and there's like a little, I think there was like a little dock or whatever, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like Bubba's like utopia. Not to mention, you guys, not to mention that literally we could walk to the sound, because it's on the Strait of Juan de Fuca. And they lived like, I don't know, I think 3 streets over from the street that Alder's grandparents lived on and built the first house on. He had like 2,000 acres on one side, and I forget how many thousands of acres he had on the other side. And all of a sudden we're sitting there, and I'm like, I just realized something. I'm like, your grandfather, I'm like, this house that you guys are on belonged to Alder's family. Like, it was fucking weird. You know what I mean? The other thing was, the whole time we were there or driving up there and then like going there, we were talking about when my mom was here. And most of you guys know I don't talk to my family anymore. I hope someday we will again, but I needed to take a long break away from my family to really rediscover myself and not let them, try to keep changing the trajectory of my life, or me allowing them to. But anyway, it was like there was just so much soul retrieval. I mean, so much soul retrieval. It was beautiful. It was hard, but it was also amazing, because we really had to think about it, because to drive up there and back was like $50 in gas, or a little bit more, I think, and might have been 60. And so, right now when we're trying to move and we barely have enough money to like, get us out of here, it's like, it was kind of a sacrifice. Like we were like, should we do it? Should we not? I was getting this false positive from spirit, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. And probably because I've just been so like, oh, like I was like, my frequency was off. I was letting the 3D stressors get to me. So, but it wasn't until like when we were driving back, and then again, like today, like it really like resonated. I realized, I'm like, no, it was like the cheapest fucking therapy we've ever had, because you have to look at it like that. Like, it wasn't about spending the money in gas. It was about really like figuring out who we are, what we want, where we're going, why we're here, what our purpose is, and how to let go of Big Camper, because her husband was like, and you can bring her over here. And I'm not kidding you, you guys. Like, all the places that we've lived were nothing compared to how beautiful this place was. And here we are. Like, when he showed us like where we got to park Big Camper, it was so private and beautiful, no neighbors. Like, it was, he even said, he's like, that's the back of their property. Go see over, and he like pointed really far. He's like, their house is on the other side. He's like, they never come back here. Plus the way the fence was, it was like boards and like, or like wood, so it's like we wouldn't see them anyway. There was one part where you could see the street, but I was like, we could block that off, like, but it was like a cul-de-sac. It was like the back of a cul-de-sac, but still, it was beautiful. I mean, these are like these are like, I think I saw their property was like worth like 1.3 or 1.5 million. Like, it was amazing, gorgeous. I mean, we had it. We could have had it all, for real. And the only thing they wanted, like, they had a cleaning lady. They didn't need anything from me. I didn't even have to work. I mean, obviously, I'd have to work to like pay our bills, but like, they just wanted, someone to do the landscaping, which Alder loves doing that. And I was like, I can ride the mower, and that's all they wanted. And I was like, dude, we would have the best summer here. I'm like, these people are so nice, but I just, towards the end, all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, the woman like stood up and like said, well, I guess, we'll see you, when we see you or whatever. And she went to go sit down and like went to go watch TV. And I'm like, okay. And Alder and I just like kind of looked at each other, and her husband, and he's like, is there anything else you want to ask? And I'm like, no, I'm like, everything's cool. So he's going to walk us out, and they're like, write down your number, and I said, yeah. I go, why don't we take 24 hours for all of us to, think about it, and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay. And then somehow we started talking again, just kind of sitting, standing around while they were like, sitting down, getting ready to watch TV. It was getting later for them. I think it was like 7 or 8 by then. And then all of a sudden, it was just the way she looked at me and she said, "What do you want?" And because we were asking them what they wanted, what they needed, like we were talking, I wanted to be very transparent about what the work trade was, so we didn't have any miscommunications because we've been in that situation before, blah, 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 blah. And then it was the way she said it. She just looked at me and she said, "What do you want?" And I said, "What do I really want?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I said, "I don't want to live in big camper anymore." I said, "But if that's what we got to do, then that's what we got to do." And they had this cool old garage that had been on the property. It looked like it had been on the property a long time. Like maybe they had torn down the old house, but like kept the garage, and it was kind of cute. And it had like these windows with curtains. And I was like, that kind of looks like a tiny home. It was really cute. And I said, "Do you guys have anything in there?" He's like, "No, not really." He's like, "There's no plumbing." And I'm like, "Well, what if we, and she was like, "You could probably make that into something." Like all of a sudden she was like, "Huh, I didn't think about that." And so I was like, "Huh." I'm like, "Well, let's all think about it, whatever." And so we left. And so we're driving out of there and we decided to go and, kind of catch this, part of the sunset, because where that is in the Strait of Juan de Fuca is the very, 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 very top of Washington State. And across the strait is Canada. And we love that area. We've loved it for years. And there's this place we love to watch the sunset. And when we left their house, he thought he was taking the right road. And all of a sudden we found this other place. I'm like, "What's this?" So we stopped to go to the bathroom before we got on the road because it was like a 2.5 hour drive home. And all of a sudden, like, I just went to the salt water. I went to the bathroom first, and like when I was done, I went out to the salt water and I just like put my hands in the salt water and I looked across at Canada and I was just like looking around and I was like, man, 7 years ago, I really wanted to live here. This is a gorgeous place. I'm like, our lives would be made. Plus, her husband was so cute. He loved us so much. He's like, "I love you guys." He's like, "You could live here for free." He's like, "I don't need the money." Like, he was just like so nice, He was just like, he goes, "I just need help, He's like, "I just need help in the garden and blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "But it's getting out of control." And so, and I think they wanted the companionship because they had 2 kids our age, and one lived in Switzerland, and the other one, I think, lived in California still. I think they were just looking, there's this massive house. They don't have grandchildren. But it was interesting. It was like when we got back in the car and we were driving and we started talking about it, at first it was kind of cool. And I was like, "What do you think?" And Alder was like, "Oh, yeah." He's like, "That place is amazing." He's like, "Oh, it'd be like a dream to like work on the, all," because we talked about it. I was like, even if we just did it for the summer, because there's so many places I can work, like the lavender farm that, and I was like, we could just do it for the summer. But then all of a sudden it was just like, it was like her voice kept ringing in my ears. "What do you want? What do you want? What do you want?" And all of a sudden, it was like we were driving. It was like we were coming out of the top of the peninsula and we started to drive south. And like, we love the Hood Canal. It's our favorite place. That's where we really want to live. And all of a sudden, as we started to like come around this one part, I heard Pink's, "'Cause every night I lie in bed, something, "A Million Dreams is all it's gonna take," that song? Oh my gosh, it just, like, hit me like a ton of bricks, and I just I'm trying not to cry, but I just started crying, and I'm like, "No." I'm like, "I don't wanna do that." And he goes, "What?" I go, "I don't wanna live with people anymore." I'm like, "I don't wanna worry about somebody. I don't wanna think about somebody." I'm like, because as most of you guys know, like, over the last like 6 years, we've been in Big Camper, 6.5 years. It's like the first year we took care of his mom, who was really sick. Then the next year we moved on to that. We tried to be in that community with that farm. They totally took advantage of us. And then we moved here, and we've been here almost 5 years and helping her and helping her on the farm. And it was really great for a long time. But I'm like, I need a break. I'm like, I need to not like have somebody like wanting something from me or feeling like every 2 minutes I'm being disturbed, like, because there's something going on. Because my favorite time that when we're here is in the winter when nothing is going on. But even so, last winter, you know, she had people coming and going, staying here and all that. And it was just too much for me. And I realized, I'm like, I want to sell Big Camper. And I don't care if we put our stuff in storage and we live out of the car until we find a home. I'm like, then that's what we're going to do. Because I said, because every night I lie in bed and visions of like these dreams go through my head. And I want to live my dream, you know, like I don't want to take care of people anymore like that, you know? And as much as I can tell, like they were really lovely, beautiful people, I was like, I can't watch people kill themselves. Like I stopped talking to my family for that. Like when I looked around their house, everything was like, you know, from Costco and like, you know, Pepsi and just like, you know what I mean? Like it would just, it's just not us, you know? Like I said, I would cook for you guys if you wanted me to cook sometimes. I'm like, I love to cook and bake. I said, but you'd have to eat what I make and I won't make meat here. Like I told them that, you know, but it's just still like, she said, what would you want to do here? And I said, well, I go, you're sick. I'm like, or she's, because she was saying that she was, you know. And I said, I can work with you. I said, if you'd let me, I said, I can help heal you or help you heal yourself or whatever. And she said, oh no. She's like, I'm at death's door or whatever. She's like, I don't care or something. And then I thought, you know what? I'm not going to, you know what I mean? Like, I'm done. I'm done with that. I'm done trying to fight, like, let everybody believe what they want to believe in or whatever. But I'm like, I just can't watch people slowly kill themselves in front of me. And it's like, I feel like my mission, our mission on this planet is to help people, you know, live their healthiest, most happiest, most blessed life. And I don't want to watch somebody else die or, you know, slowly kill themselves or, you know. But we loved her husband. He was the sweetest man. Both of us were like, can we adopt you? He's like, I'm like, he's like your dream dad. He seriously is. And he has 2 grown daughters and he's so proud of them. And honestly, he was a pleasure to meet and talk to. But yeah, so that's where we are and that's what happened. And I realized that the only way to set my soul free is to really be free because I'm a triple Sag, man. And Alder's moon's in Sag. It's like, and here we are in this full moon in Sagittarius energy when I'm doing these late at night. My last pick a reading here. I just want to say thank you guys so much because I don't know if I'm going to continue with this channel. I don't know what's going to happen. You know, I have so many things saved on here. So I've probably got hundreds of shorts of readings that I've done over time that they've had me save. So I'm sure they'll probably have me do something with those. I can't imagine they had me make them for nothing. I don't know if they're going to have me work more with my Poetic Prophet channel. I don't know if we're going to live on the road. I don't know if we're going to sell this and find our dream home the next day. I don't know. So stay tuned. When I looked down, it was 3313, which is the number 10. So maybe, you know, maybe that completion will come. Maybe we'll go travel around for a while and then find our home. I don't know. That's the beauty of this right now. And I used to be afraid of that. And now I realize I'm not afraid of it. And, you know, as much as I love Big Camper, it's just a thing. And I can't be attached to her. She needs to go on another, you know what I mean? Like she's waiting for her new people, her new family, her new person, whatever's going to happen, who's ever going to get her. I wrote this really awesome, funny ad about the pros and cons of Big Camper. And she's great. And I really, I know Spirit's going to send some magic our way because otherwise I don't know. Or if she doesn't sell, like we found a few places where we can store her. So that might be what happened. That might be what is meant to be too. And, you know, and then maybe we will, you know what I mean? I don't know. But I have traveled before and done spirit work like that. And maybe that's what they're going to have us do again. And so we've been talking to Bubba, you know, just trying to like prep her because I'm like, dude, you're going to have to like go, like, you're going to have to be in your carrier sometimes. And I'm like, it's not going to be super fun. And, you know, like Alder is a traveling mechanic. I'm like, but maybe you're not supposed to. I'm like, who knows? I'm like, we just don't know. And that's the beauty of this. We don't know. So pray for us, send us love and light and support, loving support. And yes, if you want to contribute, we would love if you can contribute and support us in any way. I've got links to support us financially in the About section. I have links that I'll put below as well with the reading that I always put in. I stopped putting some of the links in the reading description because I was getting spam, but they're in the About section. I don't think people go through there. All right. You guys, thank you. Seriously, I don't know if this is going to be the last one, but if it is, thank you so much. Thank you for learning with me, growing with me. You know, I'm going to keep, as far as I know, I'm keeping my Tickety Talk going. So maybe they're just going to have me do stuff there. Tomorrow I'll be packing up, and you know, if they have me leave some decks out, maybe they will be having me do stuff there. I've pre-recorded some readings for Tickety Talk, but I have not done any pre-recordings for picker readings like this. There are some old readings that I did that they told me not to post, but they're like from a long time ago. So maybe they'll have me post those. I don't know. We'll see. But until then, I love you guys more than you ever know. And thank you for walking this beautiful path with me. I'm so proud of us. We've come so far. And this will keep growing, or it won't. Or they'll have me take a new tack. I'm not quite sure. But until next time, go check out your readings. And we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. All of the links are in the description box below. So is the way to get a hold of me. You know, if you want to have a reading with me, or if you've stumbled upon this channel and you want to have a session with me, we can do that over the phone or in person if you're in the Pacific Northwest. Also, I did a powerful shamanic healing a few days ago, and it like inspired me again. So I'm doing shamanic healings again. I can do distance Reiki, but if you're in the Pacific Northwest, you know, and I'm in your area, I can travel to you, or you know what I mean? Like we can do that in person. No matter what I do, my rates are $55 for half an hour and $100 for an hour. It's below. And my email address is themagicalmedium@gmail.com. And that is also below. A link for my Tickety Talk is below, and my Twitter. I don't know if they'll have me ever go on Twitter again, but I do have one. And that is it. Oh, gosh, I'm just in awe of all of this magic. So thank you for being a part of it with me. Until next time, I'll see you at your reading. Blessed be. Aho. I love you.